let's start a little bit about you and your wife's journey. What made you and your wife decide to build a business together instead of staying on the traditional path?
For us, honestly, it's pretty simple, and it was freedom. My wife's actually been in entrepreneurship for 6 years now. She owns her own business in the health and coaching online space, and I've just seen how she's been able to operate, watching her tackle tough tasks, which as an entrepreneur you deal with every day. Watching her scale the business has been phenomenal. And then most importantly, seeing the freedom in which she operates. That was something that we both wanted. So for us, about a year and a half ago, we truly started whiteboarding ideas together. How could we go into business together and what would that idea look like? Ultimately landed on Chubies, and now we're in the children's footwear space.
It's amazing. And you have a couple of children, of course.
We have two. Yeah, we just had our second little baby girl.
It's amazing to test your
Yeah,
products out on and create for them, really.
that's right. Well, that's exactly right. Yeah, our son was really the reason behind starting Chubies, and I know we'll dive into that in a little bit. But yeah, he was the inspiration and the reason that we push forward today to the point where we are right now.
I love that. And so you're not just creating shoes, you're trying to solve real problems for parents. And so when did you realize that your brand could be something bigger than footwear and offer something just a little bit more?
Yeah, really from the jump, actually. We started this brand because of a huge problem. And that was active lifestyle has seemingly gone out the window. We wanted to build a brand that mattered not only in the space we're in, which is footwear. So that's why we're barefoot, wide toe box. There's natural development there. And that's a huge reason we're doing this. But a big piece is the active lifestyle that has in many ways dissipated. We want to bring that back and we really promote that. So that's the bigger piece of it. So we knew going in that we had much more to sell than just a pair of shoes. And I think that for us, that was a big piece early on, from right from the start, from concept to where we are now. And we keep that in the forefront so that we always are putting out a product that keeps that front and center. Every time that we're telling a story, we're marketing, however we're positioning ourselves, that's the biggest piece is that active lifestyle. And it's more than just shoes. And I know that might sound a little tacky, but it really is.
Yeah.
And that also goes to the product itself, of course.
So how did you come up with that idea of adding the AirTag?
I'm sorry,
How did
come
you?
up with the idea
Yeah.
for the AirTag. We actually the genesis of all of this was we actually were going to create our own GPS tracking system with an application, and it became overbearing. There's a ton of components to that. When we started doing research into the space, we realized that parents were sewing pockets into their shoes, kids' shoes, so that they could place an AirTag in it. We also noticed a company that was making essentially lockets for the shoes that you could clip onto a shoelace or some part of the shoe and put an AirTag in that little compartment. That was the light bulb moment where we just thought, instead of going down the path that we were on originally, let's make it a lot easier on ourselves. We're new to this space, so making it easier is going to be welcomed for sure. We just decided after more extensive research, nobody had been doing this. We wanted to do it. So we do have patents pending on three different pieces, three different designs pieces on our shoe. And that's one of them. And that's the biggest differentiator for our shoe.
I love that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what has surprised you most emotionally about entrepreneurship so far?
I don't know that there's been a big surprise, but what I can say emotionally is that I've never been happier. And as someone who has been on the journey yourself, you know that being an entrepreneur is chaos. There's oftentimes no specific roadmap, right?
Yeah.
There's volatility every day, every hour of the day that you're and for me, emotionally, I just knew that being in corporate America where I was, although I loved in many regards, I loved what I was doing. I loved the work. I loved the people, especially that I was working with over the years. I just realized though that solving problems like I'm solving now for my own company and reverting back to the onset of this is that freedom, the ability to do things that I feel are important for my family, for myself, for the business and make those moves was so charging for me
Yeah.
and emotionally, like I said, I've never been happier. And that chaos is something that I thrive off of. And I'm just so stoked that I get to do this full time right now.
Yeah, I love that. And I was thinking last night, it's interesting you kind of mentioning like just all the stuff you go through and the massive growth that you have to go through. And
Yeah,
there's no shortcut because I look back and I think what I have today is because of everything that I walked through and learned and who I worked with and what I did
yeah,
and all of the stuff and it's like it is such a huge, I always say that it's the biggest self-improvement program that exists because your business grows with you, right?
right. I mean, yeah, 100%. It's like being an individual sport player or athlete, you know? There's really no one else to blame. There's no one else to look at and point the finger at. Now, obviously, I do have my wife, and I can point the finger her way a lot. But in all seriousness, I mean, you're right. There's so much that you can learn about yourself. I think that there's character building that goes along with it. I think it's a great point. You learn so much about yourself. You're forced to do things that you haven't done from a career perspective that enable you to build a brand, but also it's learning is cool. I've always liked to learn, and you certainly, especially in our space in retail, there are so many things that I still don't know that we're in the midst of learning right now, and I think it's the coolest thing. But yeah, that reflection is only showing one person back, and there's no one else to blame or give credit to, and you're out there on an island a lot of the time, and I suppose that's why not everybody does it, but to me, it's the most fulfilling and rewarding thing that I've done in my life at this point.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And it's funny you're mentioning about blaming your wife, and I always think if I was married, I have this thought on I say to myself, if I was married, I would have blamed a spouse for that,
Yeah.
or I lose
Yeah.
something because I'm got my mind's in a million different spots. I just sit there and think, man, I would have totally blamed my spouse.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. If there's no other reason to find one, there's your reason right there.
Got to be them, and that's where all the problems are because it's really you.
Exactly. It can't be us.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So, prior to the podcast, we talked a little bit about building trust and not just selling products, right? And
Yeah.
so, what does a trustworthy brand look like to you as you move forward this year and start to launch? Because I know that you
Yeah.
and your wife really, she's going to be doing a lot of this, but what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I love that. I do. I think I'll say this. I'm most fond of brands that we trust, and whether we use their products or services or not, you can tell where and when a brand is trusted. For us, the first piece of that, there's two components. The first piece to me is the product.
Yeah.
When our customers buy our shoes and they can feel and tell the difference in the quality, when we tell them it's a barefoot shoe that's going to move with your child's foot and it does that, I think that starts to create trust. The product has to be stellar. The second piece of it to me is if and when something is to go wrong, we ship the shoes to a wrong location or what you name it.
Yeah.
When a customer needs us, we are prompt and we are efficient with our response. I think that those two pieces together build trust. And that is our focus. That's our mission. Create the best absolute product we can. And no matter how large of a company we become, we always have that customer service backing where our customers know they're going to get a response from us. We're going to resolve any issues, or if it's simply just questions, we're answering questions. We're providing the educational component to what we're doing to help parents make the right decisions for their kids. And I think trust is critical, and it's at the core of what we're building at Chubies.
I love that. And both you, I love that your wife is online a lot and she has
Yep.
a brand. And
Yep.
I'd add to that too is, you have such a unique ability to be demonstrating your product with your kids. Hey, I don't have to
100%.
yeah. Hey, I don't have to worry about my child because, of their shoes,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. Yeah.
I think, and just being able to, I feel like being able to show up and show, like, I'll give you an example. When I started my product based business years ago, and I couldn't sell worth beans, to be honest with you, and I found this millionaire lady, and she had succeeded. I'd seen her on a TV show, and so I
Uh-huh.
hunted her down, and I found out she trained people, and so I did her training. And I remember I was so frustrated because I was out there teaching science for teaching everybody science and nobody cared and I wasn't making any sales. And one day she said to me, she goes, Aimee, I want you to stop teaching. And I was like, what? And she's like, stop teaching. And I'm like, well, how are people going to buy it?
Yeah.
She said, facts tell, stories sell. She says, this is the only thing that I want you to say from now on. When someone asks you a question, you say, I don't know. All I know is insert testimony. I was like, okay. And she's like, I just want you to still share stories, how things have transformed for you.
Yeah. Right.
And so I did that. And that's how I made $5 million.
Yep. Yep.
And it translates to online too. So, just sharing that a little bit, I think you're in a perfect position to do that because, hey, look at my child with the shoes, right? That's so easy.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Well, yeah, I mean, it's the easiest form of advertising for sure. I mean, we hit playgrounds damn near every day, and every time we're out, we've been prototyping now for several months. So every time we're out, he's in them, and there's at least one comment we'll get, which just gives us the opportunity. I think we'll delve into this here in a little bit, but for us, we didn't want to create any buyer fatigue with marketing too early before there's a product to buy.
Yeah.
So we have to be mindful of what we say, but we try to collect. We're out. We'll write down an email, or I did this, like I have pen and paper out there. I was just going back to the old school form. We'll take down an email, or we'll add people to our list so that we can share what we're doing with them, and eventually bring them into the family. But yeah, for us, it's all day, just out at the playgrounds, at the parks, wherever we are. He's in them, and it's starting conversation for us. So we're always selling.
Yeah.
And on that point, I think that as I read, listen to podcasts more about this path, selling is seems to constantly be the one thing that the Mark Cubans of the world will say is most important than anything, over product, over anything, is the ability to sell. And I think you have to take some stock in that, obviously, when people like that are saying it. So I'm glad that you were able to get to that point.
Yeah, and it's like, it's just what you're saying is selling is really people, does it work and will it work for me? So if you
Yeah.
show up, does it
Yeah.
work? Well, it's working for my child. Will it work for me? Will it work for my child? Well, it looks like it will.
Take a look right there. Yeah. Yeah.
No, like it's so much easier than having to go in and say, gee, let me teach you about a shoe,
Right. Right.
yeah, just show up, just be
That's right.
right, be it versus tell it.
Yeah.
And so let's dive in a little bit about the bigger, the other like meaningful story around your brand, because we talked a
Sure.
little bit about this prior to the show as well, about a lot of brands focus on just on their products. And I will add this, it's a fun fact, is that uh, back in the day when I was at Deloitte, I took this Harvard training that's only offered to C-suite big Fortune 50 companies on how to turn a brand into into a Fortune 50 company. And one of the things that you're doing in your brand is about what we're going to talk about, is one of the things that they say to do. So I thought that would make you feel kind of excited. But
I'm curious to know what it is.
yeah, so a lot of brands that really explode, there's an emotional connection and a bigger story. And
Yeah.
your bigger story about the AirTag, tell me a little bit about the deeper meaning around that, and how that goes beyond shoes.
Yeah. Yeah. The story is also twofold, but to start with the AirTag, for any parent who has experienced that moment, or God forbid, moments long, a couple minutes that might seem like an eternity, where you are confused as all get out of where your kid is it's terrifying. So for us, we had experienced that early and never wanted to experience it again, which is why when we started doing research, as I mentioned earlier, we saw that people were putting AirTags, sewing them into shoes or putting them into this component that this company was making. And that's just a huge piece for us. We've seen at this point with our son who's been wearing it, he doesn't even know it's in there. And that's obviously a huge plus, and it's not falling out, which is the other key piece to that. Another piece for us from the story side is, if I don't know how many people know this, but as a country, we rank at the lowest for physical activity in children as far as how many children are out being active. We rank at the highest, conversely, in childhood obesity and in diabetes. And we have to change that. And I know that there are so many causes out there. There are so many individuals, companies that are making a stand to better that, and we want to be part of that. And the story is go outside, be active. Our shoe, the product itself, a barefoot shoe that is designed to move freely, to help that development, wide toe box for natural toe splay. These things are all helping to quite literally build from the ground up. And it all starts with the feet. And for us, that's the stories that we're telling. And we understand we're not the first to market with a barefoot shoe for children. We understand that we have competition out there and that others are doing it. But to your point earlier with our son, we're out there, we're showing others in real time what it looks like. The foot movement while on the playground, if he's climbing, if he's running, you can see how the foot corresponds to those movements, and that's what's a big piece of barefoot shoes. And for us, being active, getting outside, helping, even if minimally, just helping to correct those stats of being in a terrible rank for outdoor activity. If we can just change that one shoe purchase at a time, that's what we're at.
Yeah, I love that. And the fact that you added an AirTag that is gives a parent peace of mind because of, unfortunately, the time that we live in where there's a lot of people out there that just aren't safe. And
Yeah.
being able to track your children and have that is huge, I think, too.
Yeah, and we'll say legally you'll never lose a shoe. It's a way to track the shoe, but yeah, I mean, yeah, for us, it's so important, and it on the opposite side of it, it's unfortunate, but yeah, these things happen, and anything that as we were building, we were thinking anything that we can do to help solve this issue or provide that peace of mind, rather, how do we do that? And this is what we came up with.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I think about my childhood, how many times I'd be out with my mom and I'd take off
Exactly.
in a department store doing my thing,
That's a, yeah.
you know?
Our experience was in a grocery store, and I'm sure there's so many like that. It was you just lose sight for a second, and then you're scurrying trying to find your child, and it's tough, and heaven forbid it's even worse than that. But yeah, I mean for us, and also truly, the kids take their shoes off all the time. Now our shoes, part of the thing that we wanted to make sure we did was have a shoe that stayed on the foot, because that was one of the issues we were having when we were first buying shoes for our son. So that's another pain point that we tried to solve for. But that doesn't mean that older kids can't take their shoes off, and it could be anywhere. If you utilize our Apple AirTag compatible pocket, you'll find that shoe.
I love that. And
Yep.
I want to say that what I mentioned about the strategy of turning your business into Fortune 50 and you having that one of those components is part of your story and having a deeper meaning, a deeper reason behind your product. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks
Yeah.
for drawing that comparison. Hey,
Yeah.
we make it to be a Fortune 500 company. I'll be happy. So,
I see it. I mean, I don't see there's any reason why you wouldn't succeed. So I'm really excited for you.
I really thank you. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about previously about ads and things and the different people that I've worked with that, they think they just need tons of traffic and they jump into the ads. But then our conversation changed and we started talking about building a community
Hmm.
or in a building a community even before you start to scale. What do you have a vision around that? Because like now you're collecting emails, you're out there networking. Do you have any type of future vision around that?
Yeah, I think ultimately for us, part of us educating, not being overbearing with the educational piece, but just providing insights as to why barefoot, why our shoes, and why outside matter. I think that that brings in a certain group. And for us, community is so important. You had mentioned building in public and being out here. You and I obviously connected via LinkedIn. And if I wasn't on LinkedIn the way that I have been the last 6 months, which I made a priority for myself to post regularly, to engage with people on a daily basis, which I'm loving, by the way. We wouldn't have met. I wouldn't be, we wouldn't be doing this right now together. And I think that that's so important. And my goal on LinkedIn is truly just build personal brand. And it's reverting back to what you talked about at the start of this, which is trust. I think that there's a huge trust component when even someone in South Dakota that doesn't know me personally, but has been following along and engaging with me via LinkedIn, for example, there's trust that starts to build. You start to understand who I am, especially the way that I'm posting. I'm posting about sometimes rather personal stuff. So I think that that's a good way to build that trust. And that I think helps build that community. But to me, I think it's everything because we don't just want to be Chubies, the shoe brand that we bought and they got our money. We
Yeah.
want to be the brand that truly hears you. You buy a pair of shoes and this piece on the shoe sucks. Tell us and we can fix it. That will never die with us. We want to continue to be that type of brand. And I think building in public, we're getting ready to do some wear testing with our pre-production shoe. That's it just correlates to everything we're saying right now. It's putting it out there, getting the feedback, positive or negative, and implementing change if needed and where needed. And again, to reiterate, I think it establishes that trust.
Yeah.
And that's so imperative early on for a no name startup in a space that is ultra competitive. And yeah, that's what we're doing. And again, just to tell you, I love building a community. I absolutely love it. The people that show up that are complete strangers for the most part, they no longer are. We engage, we talk, and it's been incredible. I just enjoy it personally.
I have a question, deeper question for you. So we talked a little bit about imposter syndrome. And,
Yeah,
I could so identify with that. And the emotional weight of building something from scratch.
yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are, there's a difference out there. I think that there's a lot of people that call themselves startups. They get a ton of money and they live off of the money. And then there's the people that are actually building businesses, right?
Right, right.
And so, how do you stay grounded when the pressure gets heavy?
Really simple. I can make this the shortest answer. That's my faith, my relationship with God. I can expand upon it, or I could simply leave it that definitive.
Yeah.
What I will say is, yes, when we were talking last week about imposter syndrome, it's brutal. And I'm a fairly confident person. I've never really struggled with that piece. And some days, some moments in the day for sure, it's tough.
Yeah.
I left corporate America. I left a high paying career with stability, mostly with insurance for my family to pursue this.
Yeah.
And you're talking about being out on an island. You are. Now fortunately, I do have a wife who's wildly successful. So proud of everything that she's built. And a little unknown fact, back in the day when she was laid off, I gave her the runway to pursue this side hustle that she had going to make it her reality. And now she just roles reversed. She's doing the same for me now. And it's such a beautiful thing to be able to think of our story. And 6 years later, now here I am trying to get this startup off the ground, and she's giving me the runway to do it. And financially supporting while we do it is so cool. But yeah, that imposter syndrome is real and it hits and it can hit hard. But what I've seen on this faith journey I've been on for about 7 months, God, I've never been more calm. I've never been more at ease. And I'm still working on the ability to just sit back and know that it's in his hands and he'll take care of it. It's still a little tough for me, but as I get better at that piece, I notice that the imposter syndrome, the self-doubt, the negativity that almost inevitably will hit at some point or multiple points in the process, I feel really good in knowing that I'm in the right spot, and I can't thank him enough, and my relationship and faith for sure with him.
No, I love that. And I agree. I kind of looked at my journey where I've realized, there's things that I wish that God would have just shown up and saved me from, that I didn't have to go through that. But then it wouldn't have changed me. I wouldn't be who
Right?
I am. I wouldn't have the insight that I have. I wouldn't have the value to bring to people. I wouldn't be the person that I am. And, I feel like, this, being an entrepreneur, you have to be resourceful. You have to solve
Oh yeah,
problems. You have to live in high level stress and be able to get to the point where you choose your state. You choose
right.
how you're living.
Have to.
You're letting everything freak you out. In fact, I'll tell you this: when I first started my business, there was this guy on TikTok that I got to be friends with. He was an entrepreneur, and he'd been an entrepreneur longer than me. And I was like, I'm freaking out because my bank account is negative $300. And he goes, "What you worried about? Mine's a negative 2,000." And I
Yeah,
was like, and I remember early on having that realization of, it's not freaking out about stuff that you would normally freak out about. Learning to calm your nervous system and not realizing it's not an emergency.
yeah. That's a big piece. That being able to prioritize disasters,
Yeah, like,
I think that's a yeah, that's a skill that is best acquired quickly.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that. What's been your biggest nobody warned me about this moment so far in your business?
I have two. One is what it what the USPTO is, the trademark office. It's been, and choose my words carefully. It's been somewhat of a nightmare with some of the stuff that we're dealing with. And then of course we're manufacturing overseas, so for us that component, no one really warns you about what it takes and what it's going to look like. The level of complexity that it entails. Now, of course, going in, I knew language barriers. I knew we're halfway across the globe. I know all of that, but then as you dive in, and I mean, there's just so many layers to it, and those are the two things without a doubt that just could have been warned about, but nobody did. And I don't think that I didn't think I had the right people in my Rolodex to warn me about it. So
Yeah.
you have to learn. It's kind of that baptism by fire.
Yeah, yeah, it's like cold, yeah, the cold turkey, and yeah,
Oh yeah,
and going out and find those suppliers and stuff. It like, and then you start to get into their certification stuff, and like, what certifications do they have, and
yes,
are they ethical?
which is huge,
And
which
yeah,
is huge in our space for sure.
yeah, like, you don't
Yeah,
want to be like who
yeah,
has, like, the
right,
slave king.
yeah.
Yeah, and there's,
Not great for business.
yeah, and then there's the
Yeah,
fly by nights, and the ones that are actually going to just, take your money and run and give
yeah,
you
yeah.
crap in exchange, and
Well, we've been, I never miss an opportunity to shout out our dear partner, Julie. She has been phenomenal in this process. So you mentioned a minute or two ago the skill set of being resourceful as an entrepreneur.
yeah,
And I have that in my bag. What I don't have is the connections to overseas manufacturing, to understand what it takes to ship product, all of this. And but that resourcefulness came in handy. Long story short, through network, was connected with Julie. She has been integral in our business and helped us with the vendors relationships that we have. Can't call her more of a partner than what I am right now. She's amazing. She's incredible. We're so glad to be partnered with her, and that she helps us tremendously on our business.
is she helping
We're
you
just we're
is she
very
helping you
fortunate.
with the freight forwarding and all of that stuff too?
We're handling all of that, but she has been running point on getting us set up, helping us to determine the right manufacturers months ago. We went through testing with multiple manufacturers to determine which route we wanted to go, who made the best product. We put some manufacturers through it. We definitely gave them some tougher guidelines because we really wanted to see if we were to, as we expand, we have ideas for down the road. We wanted to see what vendor would not just be good for now, but down the road. And we landed on that partner and they're incredible. But yeah, Julie she essentially acts as our COO. She's phenomenal. So we're so grateful for her. And you know, that resourcefulness is, I just keep thinking of that because it's what it takes.
Yeah, it's true.
I never been in this business.
You got scrappy.
Didn't know didn't know anything other than, hey, I have an idea and here's what I drew. How do we make this?
Yeah,
So naive, but that's kind of what it takes. I mean, just have the horse blinders on. This is what we want to do. Maybe we're delusional for doing it, but we're going for it. Here we go.
yeah, definitely. Well, and on the side note, if you start to decide to ship pallets and you need some scripts of what to say
Yeah.
to the forwarders to get the right quotes and all of that kind of stuff, I've got you.
Okay.
Because
Good.
back in the day,
I take all the help.
yeah, when I started years and years and it was 2024.
Hmm.
I started like documenting my journey on YouTube and starting private label and doing all that. And that's when I started all of that. And I had to learn all the stuff that hard.
Yeah.
But I put a full pro. I have it, but I don't really sell it. You know, like I used to sell it for $2,000. I was giving out for $50. You know, because it's not as easy to do the private label online, but it's still I have a lot of really,
Yeah.
helpful stuff in there. Uh,
Yeah.
but I have the scripts of what you actually have to say to the forwarders and how it works. So I'll hand that over to you for free.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Aimee, no one can say that you're not a student of the game. That's for sure.
Right. Like, I think it's because I'm so passionate to solve problems and, I finally nailed my own, like, what is it that I'm super good at? And I've got pattern recognition, right? And that's my number one thing. And I want to go out
Hmm.
there if there's a problem. What's the problem? Where are the patterns? And how can we solve the thing? Right. And so a lot of people say, so much in so many different areas. And it's like, yeah, because I like to solve the problem. So if I come
Right.
across a problem, we will have, I cured myself of chronic illness. Well, there was no cure. What did I do? I solved it. I came up with the cure.
Incredible.
It's the same thing, right? Finding what the problem is, solving it, and connecting the dots that nobody else is connecting. And so it just made me this wealth of knowledge now
Yeah.
of
We're pretty much an entrepreneur packaged up, gift wrapped right there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you, I tried to quit the entrepreneur journey and applied for a senior level position, and they said, "You have been an entrepreneur too long. You would be so
Really?
bored. Yeah, you would be so bored. You were not hireable." At the point, I'm like, all right.
Yeah. You're never leaving. You're
Yeah,
never leaving this area.
yeah.
Okay.
And I think that that's one thing that people don't realize too, that once you're a successful business owner, you get past like, the 5 year suck or whatever, there's no going back because people realize it takes a certain personality, especially those that have worked with entrepreneurs. It takes a certain personality to start a business and grow a business and
Oh yeah.
scale a business. And then, and then you just don't fit in a cubicle.
Right. Yeah, that was for sure, as we talked about earlier, that was a big piece for me is I have the ability to think outside the box and I'm in no way is that special, but I just often think that way. So as I was in leadership, I was always looking at more than just A, B, or C way to solve an issue or to sell or what have you. And a lot of the time you're not afforded that luxury to do that, right? It's cut or dry. It's this way, this is it. And over time for me, it just beat me up. And there's no denying how much I love the people I worked with. There's no denying how much I loved the work we were doing. But over time, just that inability to really operate with full, true 100% autonomy got to me. And yeah, that for me was a big reason we're here.
Yeah, you're a definitely entrepreneur is a different flavor, and you just don't
Yeah.
fit, And I was the same way. Corporate year for years, and I'd sit there in meetings and try to, in my brain, solve business problems. Ooh, this business could do this.
Yeah. Well, what's so devastating, I was the same way. And what's so devastating is when I was never the guy with the ego that was like, this is it. It's either this way or not. So if my idea sucked, it sucked, and I could take that. But what was so devastating is you're sitting in the meeting, to your point, and you hear something and you might have a solution
Yeah.
and you hash it out, you work it up, you take it to whomever. And it's just like, no, yeah, right. Like you wasted your time doing this. This is how we're doing it.
Yeah.
Um, and that was a tough piece for me too, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. There's no room for innovation. They want you to be in a box. And by the way, if you outshine your boss with your good idea, that's even worse. Right. So,
That's right.
you know,
That's right.
there's
That's right.
that.
Yeah. Yep. Or worse, just getting your idea taken as
There-
it was somebody else's.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Guilty.
that happens. But look, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the path that I took. And I owe many people many things for helping shape the man I am, the skills I've learned, the things I've been able to do in my career that ultimately I believe will help us create success here. But yeah, I think just that freedom, that true autonomy, that ability to own every piece of the work. That's it's a different type of personality, and that's where I'm
Yeah. Yeah. So, one last question for you. What's
at.
your truth that has gotten you this far in your journey?
A truth that's gotten me this far on my journey. I think for me, it's that ability in knowing that I can do this, that I have a strong support system.
Mhm.
When I think of imposter syndrome, and I think of the times I'm thinking right now of several exact moments where things were really tough. And in that moment, although I'm surrounded by love and not just my wife and kids, but we moved from Denver to Kentucky. I'm in Kentucky now where we're right by family. I'm so blessed and so fortunate. But even in those moments when that self-doubt creeps in, you lose sight. I lost sight of that even it's just for a couple seconds, you just lose sight of it, but it's so palpable. And that's why I just kind of took a step back when you asked that question, because in that moment, you forget that.
Yeah.
And then, as you were talking about a little not too long ago, being able to work yourself out of it, being able to talk yourself back. So for me, the truth that I have such an incredible wife who is my business partner in this. I have a team that's with us on Chubies that is so smart, um, and are just I don't know where we'd be without them. And then, of course, the extended family that we have here, holding on to that truth that I don't have to do this alone, even though sometimes, like I was mentioning, it seems like you are, and then you just realize, hold on, let me get back to reality here. I think for me, that's the biggest. I hold on to that truth, and that seems to propel me for sure.
I want to make mention of your website,
Okay.
CHOOBIE kids.com, and I'll put that below. And then your socials
Yeah.
are the same. Thank
Yep.
you so much for coming on today and sharing your journey with us.
Thank you for having me. It's been great, Amy. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're listening and you want more information about this podcast or upcoming shows, you can visit acalltothrive.com. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful week.